Imagine two tiny boys adrift in the freezing Atlantic. No parents, no names, no English, only frightened French whispers carried on the night wind. In April 1912, a bitter custody dispute in Nice, France, set this tragedy in motion. Their father, Tailor Michel Navratil Sr., faced bankruptcy and feared losing his young sons forever. On Easter Monday, he spirited away 4-year-old Michel Marcel Jr. and 2-year-old Edmund Roger under cover of a supervised visit. In Monte Carlo, he shed his identity, becoming Louis M. Hoffman with a borrowed passport, and bought second-class passage for himself and the boys aboard the new RMS Titanic. On their tickets, the children were reborn as John and Fred Hoffman, names meant to fool mother and creditors alike. By the time they reached Southampton on 10 April, Michel Sr. had settled into cabin F4. He posed as a widower, shadowing his sons so closely that fellow passengers hardly knew they were there. They played on the second-class deck under his watchful eye, and once he entrusted them to a French-speaking companion, Bertha Lehmann, while he visited the cardroom. Yet even amid Titanic's opulence, a glittering dining saloon, sumptuous lounges and the hum of orchestra music, the Navratil's secret hung between them. At 11:40 p.m. on 14th April, the lookout's cry shattered the illusion. Titanic scraped an iceberg and panic rippled through the decks. Without hesitation, Michel Sr. wrapped his sons in blankets and carried them to the boat deck. As officers enforced the women and children only rule, he placed Michel Jr. and Edmund into collapsible lifeboat D, the final boat launched, and pressed his last words into his eldest son's ear. "When your mother comes for you, tell her I loved her dearly and still do." Then he stepped back into the darkness. He would never again see land. When Titanic sank, Navratil Sr.'s body was swept up by the cable ship Mackay Bennett and buried under his alias in Halifax's Baron de Hirsch Cemetery. Meanwhile, Collapsible D bobbed among hundreds of icy corpses until the Carpathia arrived hours later. The tiny Hoffman boys, shivering, hungry, and too small to climb the ladder, were hoisted aboard in burlap sacks. First-class passenger Margaret Hayes wrapped them in her own coat and, discovering they spoke only French, whispered soothing lullabies. In New York, the boys were placed under the Children's Aid Society's care, still unable to say their real names. Their photographs, captioned "Titanic Orphans," raced through newspapers wide-eyed, pale-cheeked, clutching each other in the strange world of strangers. Across the ocean in Nice, their mother, Marcel Coretto, saw those faces and recognized her sons immediately. In mid-May, she boarded the RMS Oceanic, her heart pounding, and on 16th May 1912 claimed them with tears and laughter in the Society's low-ceilinged meeting room. Marcel Coretto, "Oh, my children!" Back in France, Marcel re-established a life for Michel and Edmund. They relearned their names and began schooling, blending the ordeal into childhood routines of sailor-suited portraits, seaside walks, and stories of their miraculous rescue. Yet the shadow of Titanic lingered, the memory of blankets in a lifeboat, the ache of a father's final kiss, and the echo of newspaper headlines crying their anonymity. As they grew, the brothers charted separate paths. Edmund trained as an architect and worked as an interior decorator. He served in World War II, endured captivity and escaped, but his health never fully recovered. He died in 1953 at age 43. Michel Jr., dubbed Lolo, embraced philosophy. He earned a doctorate, joined the University of Montpellier, and married Charlotte Le Baudy Blanc in 1933. Raising 3 children who would later cherish the family's extraordinary legacy. Decades after Titanic's bow vanished beneath the waves, Michel returned to those fateful events in memoirs and interviews, describing the crunch of ice underfoot, the hush that fell over collapsible D before dawn, and the damp, salt-stung blankets that saved his life. In 1987, at age 79, he attended the 75th anniversary reunion in Wilmington, Delaware, forging bonds with fellow survivors. The next year, he joined the Titanic Historical Society in Boston, and in 1996 he traveled to Halifax to place flowers on his father's grave. Michel Navratil Jr. died on 30 January 2001 at age 92, the last male survivor of Titanic, carrying to his grave both the horror and the wonder of that night. Their story endures in documentaries, exhibitions, and Elizabeth Navratil's memoir Les Enfants du Titanic, where fact and feeling entwine across 315 pages.